Okay, cool. I think we are there. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first ever careers talk for travel and tourism with some incredible guest speakers. So we've got Ben Miller, Emma, and Sarah Gillespie. God knows why they decided to say yes to me, but they all did say yes to me. We are going to be conducting an interview with 2 level 2 travel and tourism students. So as part of the college, we look to develop character strengths. So we have Trinity Collins and we also have Damana Dimova, who are both level 2, looking to progress onto level 3 and are looking to build careers in travel and tourism. So I'm going to hand over to my two students. Sarah, Emma, Ben, they're just as nervous as you are. So over to you two. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
How's it going?
Okay, so our first question is, what can you tell us about your organisations? So Sarah, do you want to go first?
Not really, but as you've asked me, I will. So my name is Sarah Gillespie and I am a member of the clergy team. I'm a priest at the cathedral in Bury St Edmunds. So interesting to wonder why a cathedral might be part of a conversation about a career in travel and tourism. There's something that we do at the cathedral that's been happening for 1,000 years, which is to welcome people on pilgrimage as they try and journey through life and make sense of things. So over the centuries, people have travelled from across Europe to visit St Edmundsbury Cathedral. So I'm here to think about that, to think about how we welcome people who are trying to make sense of life and how our travel through life and around the world helps us to learn new things about ourselves and where we fit in the world today. So that's one of the things amongst many others that we do at the Cathedral in Bury.
Thank you. Emma, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I do many different things, which I think a lot of people do in life now, but probably the reason I'm here to be with you today is with my tourism hat on. So I run a boat called Orwell Lady that does river trips from Ipswich up and down the River Orwell. So from Ipswich waterfront to Port of Felixstowe and back, if you can sort of envisage that sort of trip, if you know much about the coastal area. So we're very, very seasonal. So we tend to work from Easter through to October time, because of course we're quite weather dependent. And we take anything up to 100 people. We do anything from sightseeing trips to afternoon teas to parties, discos. People book for work dues, and also we have lots of educational trips for schools and colleges, who particularly for schools who are learning about rivers and things for the curriculum, but also for a lot of colleges book for nice things to do for the students, to go and have a day out and do something a bit different.
Okay, thanks. And then Ben?
Yeah, so I'm like Emma, that I've got a few hats as well. So I'm a part-time associate. I'm also part of a leadership community, but again, probably the reason Mike invited me today was to talk about Latitude, which is a little social enterprise which was set up during lockdown. It's effectively about social design, which is how can we design a world where people can function better, they can learn better, they have more opportunities for coming together, there's more community, there's perhaps better career options for young people like yourself. And the idea really which we care about is how can we flip things? So rather than adults getting you to follow in their footsteps, going through the same education process, the same linear career paths, actually what tools and ideas and skills do you need to create your own future, to basically create something better than what we're handing over to you, and so it's really kind of flipping things around and saying, look, how do we all work together, and how do young people be the center of social change? And I think that you know, how would we redesign education? How would we rethink the way that we talk about careers, the way that we conduct interviews, the way that we just organize in society? And this is quite experimental. And so our idea really is, how do we create just small experiments to see what works and what doesn't work? It's about creating things which are new. And that's it in a nutshell, really. So I'll stop there.
Thank you.
So Sarah, what's your busiest time of the year?
Sorry, I didn't hear that properly. Can you say that again?
What's your busiest time of the year?
What's my business done for me? Is that the question you've asked me?
Busiest.
Sorry,
I can't hear
what's
either.
Your busiest time of the year?
Busiest time of the year, Sarah, I think.
Busiest time of the year. It's a good question, because I think it depends on what aspects of the work that we do we're wondering about. So in terms of being a church, and busiest time of the year, Christmas and Easter, and that's when our big festivals happen. But actually, from a kind of pilgrim visitor perspective, we're busy all year round. A wee bit busier in the summer, and of course over the last couple of years we've not been able to welcome so many visitors. I think before COVID we were welcoming in excess of 100,000 people a year through the doors, and I know there's been some research done recently looking at that whole area of Abbey Gardens and the ancient Abbey, and I think we appear nationally in terms of the footprint of visitors numbers. I think we're about 5th on the list of free entry spaces in terms of heritage and history, in excess of something like 5 million plus that have come to Bury St Edmunds over the year to be in that space. So we're consistently busy all year round, but yeah, busier in the summer for those reasons. I think people like to come and enjoy the weather, and people tend to visit a little bit more with all the coach trips that come in and visit Bury St Edmunds on market days. That tends to be when we pick up a little bit more. So that's our busiest time.
Okay, thank you. So Emma, what's your busiest time for you?
July and August, mostly because being on the river, people want to be out in sort of warmer weather. It doesn't mean we're not busy at other times, but we would see large passenger numbers. So when I said we can take up to 100 people, we could start going up the river with 60 or 70 in July and August, whereas perhaps in Easter we're going up with 20. So yeah, as you probably would expect, July, August.
Thank you. So Ben, what's your busiest time for you?
What I'm doing is relatively new, so there's no particular patterns which I've spotted. Just that I'm reasonably busy most of the time at the moment. So I'll keep it short and sweet. Nothing to report there at the moment.
Emma, this is more of a question for you. How many ships do you own, and how much does it cost to maintain all of them?
Oh, good question. There's only one boat, which is good, because they're very, very expensive. You've got a lot of what we would call fixed costs. So one of my other jobs is in where I'm sitting today is Magnus Group with haulage. So you can probably think about fixed costs there as well, that before you do anything, the lorries that are sitting here are all costing money. And it's the same thing with the boat. You have to pay, regardless of what you do, you have to pay for them to sit still in a funny sort of way, and you still have to look after them. So just with your car with MOT, we have to invest a lot of money in the boat. So I would say, I don't actually know off the top of my head, it's a very good question, but I know, for example, that mooring fees are £1,700 a quarter. Obviously, we're all starting to be hit by fuel charges. So our fuel charges, we run on diesel, so that will be having an impact on us. And then we have staffing, as everybody does. So we have, we're a very small team. It's a family business. We have one guy that we essentially employ full time, but he doesn't have work all year round, as I've explained earlier. So, you know, you start to put in salaries and fixed costs, as I said, and it's, you know, it's an okay business. I'd say overall the income is around 130,000 a year, and we just about make a profit. So you can probably see what your outgoings are going to look like on that. We do it for love, in case anybody wonders.
do you offer any work experience, like online or in person?
So we haven't previously, but I am interested in what we can do. I think the problem we have is that because our busiest time is July, August, that's not really when people want work experience. Work experience seems to be around April, am I right? Sort of late April time. Are you sort of, that's when you sort of look for work experience? Yeah, so from my point of view, we have one river trip in late April. So to try and get students like yourselves to hit your hours is quite difficult when we are also, as you can see, I'm at another place of work. The other members of the team are working in their houses. It's a difficult one. If it was a summer-based work experience, then you know, in June, July, or August, we could be going up and down the river 6-7 times, which each cruise is about 3 hours. Suddenly, you can see you're starting to hit your targets. But yes, in answer to the question, I would like to. I'm just not sure how practical it is for us at the moment.
Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, so we do offer work experience, and we have had students in on work experience, and we're looking to widen the way in which we can welcome. So we would think about you guys as being young volunteers within the space that we have. One of the things that we're trying to do is to make that easier this year, and we've just recruited a youth project lead who's coordinating a project to create a space for young people in the cathedral, so you can just come in and join in with. We're creating a garden and a drop-in centre, but alongside that, travel and tourism specifically, our volunteers coordinator is a fabulous woman called Sarah Friswell, and she amongst many other things coordinates volunteers who work in the tourist information point in Bury St Edmunds, and also in our cathedral shop, and as welcomers and history and heritage tour guides within the cathedral space. So Sarah's a great point of contact if people are interested in thinking about the possibility of doing some work experience with us. Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah, so we're a really small organisation, but when I say we haven't needed to yet, or we haven't been asked to yet. But I guess the thing with social design is that we can be adaptive and we respond to challenges. And I think probably the question back to you is, do you see work experience as a 9-to-5 thing where you go and do some set tasks day in, day out, and you see how something works? Or perhaps could work experience be something different where maybe it's a series of challenges, getting you to kind of think about who you are and what you want to be, and go out and connecting you with the local community, giving you some support and learning and development, and making work experience a bit more place-based, a bit more focused on who you are, what you want to be, if somebody's prepared to be experimental, that actually there won't be this kind of fixed Monday to Friday idea about what work experience is, but it's a way of maybe developing some sort of skills which could be applied to anything which you do. So if there's people within your class who basically just looking for inspiration or haven't found something which suits them, maybe there's an opportunity to do something different. And this is the whole point of what we're trying to do, is that the future will be very different to what it is now, and that goes for everything. And to actually explore what that might means basically being brave and trying different things, and it might not be for everybody. And so this kind of idea might not work for everyone, but it might work for some people. And I think the important thing is it's small steps. So it's a long-winded answer to your question. Hello, Mike.
Hi, sorry. Carry on.
That's it. I've finished that. I finished that answer.
Emma.
Okay. How much do you charge?
Ask them to see if any famous people have been on the Our Lady or to the cathedral.
Okay. Have anyone like famous ever been to like the cathedral or on your cruise?
So what can I say about, I'll say something a little bit about the cathedral. So the cathedral is an interesting space because of course people who come to the cathedral, we like to make that a safe place for people, because very often people will come because they're thinking about, there's some of that stuff that Ben was talking about their sense of purpose and place in life. And I think very often we can be defined about the job that we do or what we think we want to do. And we are so much more precious and valuable than what it is that we do. And so there are lots of famous people that have been in the cathedral, including some of the surveys that I've taken. I've looked up and seen all sorts of people, from actors to politicians to the Queen. There are pictures of the Queen having been there. But I'm not going to tell you who they are, because I want to keep that space a safe space for them, as I would anybody who comes into the cathedral. Which is not a very exciting thing to say, really, but there's lots of famous people who are actually also very ordinary people, also trying to make sense of the world. So yeah, I really enjoyed what Ben said, and would encourage you guys to think about it in that way, rather than be fixed on a particular job role that you think you want to do X. Think about who you want to be, what makes your heart sing, what you want from life, and then go out and be that. And what you do will grow around that, rather than have a fixed view of what it is you want to do.
Could we have one of the names that you were most excited about who came to the church?
You're going to really push me on this, aren't you? And I'm going to push back. I'm really going to push back, because because it's so important. It's so important that we all have safe places to be able to talk to and work things out. And so for that, I mean, I can tell you people who have, let me think, who have we interviewed publicly who's been in that space. I mean, local people like Terry Waite, but actually the people in your age range, I want to protect their identity. I'll give you some initials, KH, and I'm going to leave it at that. You can guess.
No clue. Emma, what about you?
No, not that I know of, really. We get tagged a lot on Instagram, so we probably have people with quite a lot of followers, so influencers probably, which is useful for us from a marketing point of view. And yes, you're far too young to know who this is, but Terry Waite is coming on our boat in a couple of weeks to give a talk, but that's quite well publicised. But he's quite an interesting man, his story, if you do ever want to look him up. But yes, I work with a lot of 30-year-olds here and they don't know who he is, so I can't imagine for a second that you two will know. But yeah, so I would say we're quite tagged on social media, so influencers probably would come under our remit a bit more than actual celebs.
How much does it cost to run each of your organisations?
Oh, I thought you might ask me that question just now, and I thought, I'm not sure that I actually know the answer. It's I think, if I remember rightly, I think we have a sign up in the cathedral that says it costs about £5 million a year to keep the cathedral doors open, to keep it maintained and to keep it up and running, to staff it and to keep it a welcoming space.
Do you charge for people to come into your church, or do you just take donations?
Of course, we're always very pleased to receive donations. There's a core community at the cathedral who give regularly to support that. We have patrons and funders. We have some money that we raise through the sale of tickets for tower tours, so people will go up, can climb the tower, and guided tours. And if I remember rightly, they're £5 and £10 each. But actually, just to come into the cathedral is free of charge. So we're very reliant on the donations of our visitors. Yeah.
Okay. Ben, what about you? How much does it cost to run what you do with your organisation?
At the moment, we don't really have overheads because the way it's set up. So I work part-time on it, and two other people work part-time on it. So it's been a lot of time and labour which we've put into setting up the organisation, designing materials, designing the design process, and a few other bits. So we basically we set it up to have minimal overheads, because I think that we live in a time now where we need to focus on the value that we create instead of spending so much time on managing processes and managing information. Our time is limited and it's valuable, and so what we've tried to do is really just set it up as lean as possible, so we can devote as much time and attention to solving problems, working with young people, and doing things which matter. And so ultimately at the moment, I'm probably using more my other part-time jobs to fund my time for this. So I'll probably have a better idea of what it actually costs to run, and a few overheads, probably in a year or two's time, I would say.
Emma?
I think I probably accidentally answered this a bit earlier with costs, but I think just picking up on what the other two have said, we do charge people to come on the boat. Anything from, I think, cheapest ticket we probably have is £9. And then from a wages point of view, I don't take a wage from the company, I do it. That's why I have other jobs, because it's very seasonal, it's very niche, and as I said, it's family business, so it's sort of done for love really, rather than as a money-making scheme, although it does have to break even. So I think probably from your point of view, it's maybe understanding that not all jobs do pay well, and sometimes you do have to wear lots of different hats, as Ben and I have said. And yeah, just thinking about that, particularly with tourism, thinking about it probably will be seasonal. Some of the companies that you'll be thinking about, some of the opportunities, sometimes they are all year round. My husband runs a pub, so that's annual. Obviously busy, can be busy any day of the week, any time of the year, but for real tourism, you're sometimes tied into what time people want to visit and when they want to go out and do things with you, and that can impact your costs and also how much you can get out of it as well. So it's yeah, so it's, and it also, tourism's been quite an interesting time with COVID, of course, because we've had a real hit with people not being able to travel, but we've had the benefit of people doing things in their hometown. So so it's not all bad, COVID.
What type of visitor do you most get?
That's the question for Sarah and Emma.
That's more a question
yeah.
for Sarah.
To what type of visitor?
Yeah.
I would say we get all sorts of visitors actually. We get bus loads of older people on day trips who come in on the coaches. We have lots of kind of intergenerational groups visiting. So sometimes either people on holiday or people come to visit family, and so you'll get parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and grandchildren coming out for a day and having a wander around. We have local families visiting. We have groups. We do quite often have groups of international students. When we had international students in town who would come and study English, they would come and have tours. And then we also have groups who will come in from schools and colleges, who will come not just to learn about kind of faith and spirituality. In fact, most of our groups don't come to learn about that. They come to learn and think about heritage and the history of the place and the story of St Edmund. So a real range of people actually that come. And actually, interestingly, we're beginning to develop some specialist tours. So one of our tour leaders had a stroke, for example. So creating specialist tours about people with particular needs and particular groups of people, and helping people to access the kind of the heritage of the place through their particular lens and their own particular stories.
We're very, very similar to Sarah, really. Anything, any ages, any any different needs and desires, really. So people, you know, you can probably imagine for a music disco night, we've probably got a lot more groups of women perhaps, but then with our short tours that are maybe for an hour river trip, we have a lot of families with young children, particularly in half term and summer holidays, through to Sunday lunches, or we do a sunrise cruise on the summer solstice. So we go out at 3:45 in the morning to see the sun come up on the River Orwell. That has a completely different group of people again and ages. So I think we touch all different parts of the community, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, actually, something I haven't said is, of course, at the cathedral, quite often we are a venue for other groups. So, not, you know, as you've been speaking, I think particularly about the beer festival that happened last summer and that will happen again this summer. You know, it's a very different group of people than perhaps, you know, those that might come for a I don't know, a toddler group or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the boring teacher and ask a really boring question now, because these guys won't want to ask it. But it's about sustainability and the environment. So what sort of what's your policies on sustainability and the environment, and how are your businesses adapting and changing to nature? Because it's getting colder, it's getting hotter. So how are you all adapting your businesses to meet the demands of sustainability? I think I asked that really badly, sorry. But basically, in a nutshell, what do you think about sustainability and the environment? Shall we start with you, Emma?
Yeah, so ours is quite easy because we are actually really in the thick of nature, being on the river. So we're very responsible around what we let people bring on board. We dropped straws from the bar a long time ago. We have wooden stirrers. We don't let people bring picnics on because that often involves an awful lot of cling film, and that easily can blow into the river. We are, on the flip side though, we are fueled by diesel, which is probably one of the most unenvironmentally friendly things at the moment, where that's always going to be a problem for us and will be. And as I sit here working in haulage, you know, we talk about our carbon footprint an awful lot, but we have to be realistic as well. There's costs around getting up and down the roads, and there's costs about getting up and down the river. So our strategy, really, sustainability wise, particularly as a family business, is thinking about what we take onto the river and what people bring onto the river, and making sure that we're not, you know, plastics in the river is one of our big drives, really, and that we do the best that we can with that. And then obviously at the end of a trip, we take everything to the recycling. We have separated bins for any other waste on board.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Sarah,
yeah, it's a really good question. So we, about 2 years, 18 months ago, we formed a group of people who are particularly passionate about this. They are known as the Ecos and Eds team, and they are the voice of accountability in our organisation. And they kind of do audits and keep a check on what's going on. So over the last couple of years, within the church community nationally, there's a series of awards. Bronze, silver, and gold as to how well you're paying attention to your ecological footprints, and we were just awarded a silver one just after Christmas, which is really exciting. So that means that everything from our toilet rolls to the things that we have in the as the takeaways from the cafe, all of those kinds of things are either compostable or recyclable. And we've got to the point, even just this week, of gently challenging the people that arrange the flowers in the cathedral to say that oasis that you put the flowers in, maybe not the most ecologically friendly solution. Can we look at that? So we're trying to look at everything from those micro level of details right through to the big stuff. So you can imagine we've got some old boilers that run our slightly inefficient heating system. That's tricky to replace overnight, but we have plans we have a master plan, 10-year master plan, and that includes looking at perhaps replacing the heating within the church so that we have an underfloor heating system, so we just heat that little bit of the church that people walk in rather than that great big space. And I think because we're a heritage building, that sometimes can cause some challenges for us, because you can imagine that those who take care of our built heritage are keen that we ensure that is sustained for the future in the way that it looks and the way we see it. So something as simple as deciding to put solar panels on our south-facing roofs, which would have a massive impact, environmentally speaking, is something that takes a lot of conversation and a lot of time. But we're having conversations to try and put them in places where you can't see them from the floor, for example. And then we do little radical things that they feel like tiny things, but actually they're quite big. So last year we put 2 beehives on the roof of our Pilgrim's Kitchen Cafe because we wanted to make sure that we had a friendly space for bees who can forage. And I gather that those bees can fly, a distance of up to 3 miles. So there might even be in your local homes and gardens bees that reside at the cathedral. So it's everything from kind of little stuff to the big stuff, knowing that we're not going to be able to fix it all, but let's kind of do what we can.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, it's a complicated problem. I think, yeah, how would we redesign the classroom? How would we redesign education with sustainability built in to everything that you learn? How would we think about career choices? How do we think about how to live, with sustainability in mind in everything that we do? It's basically the opposite of how we live and organize society today. And this is the problem. I think that our whole economy is based on the assumption that we need to grow it infinitely. And so there's this dissonance between us talking about sustainability and the actual reality. And so there's an element of we need to consume less, we need to travel less, we need to do less. But how can we adults say that to young people like you who want the same things as us? And so our kind of thing, our take on this would be, how would we redesign learning, which is more fun, more outdoors based? So rather than thinking about sustainability through the lens of carbon, which is quite abstract, how could we think about sustainability where you spend more time outdoors in nature, locally, and it's kind of getting back to perhaps how we evolved as hunter-gatherers, being outdoors and being more in touch with nature. So for us, it's how do we kind of reconfigure education and work around being outdoors? And I think our change with sustainability, for me, I don't think it's going to come from global entities deciding it. I think it's going to come from people like you, and it's going to come from people like us locally making a difference. And so I think it's all about community change, and one community at a time becoming more sustainable, more regenerative in the way that we think about nature and our land. And so for me, it's just a very practical way. How do you spend more time in nature and see how it evolves, see how it responds to what we're doing to it? And how might we kind of design learning and careers and work around that?
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask about the heritage. What's a heritage building?
Oh yeah. Sarah, can we ask you, what's a heritage building?
What's a heritage building? So a heritage, I'm not sure that there's an actual definition. There probably is. It's not my area of expertise, but for me, a heritage building is something that is of our past that we want to sustain into the future. So when I think about heritage buildings, it could be anything from, I don't know, a 1960s designed building that was cutting edge in terms of its environmental solutions at the time. Or it might be an ancient abbey or the ruins in the Abbey Gardens that have got something that speaks to multiple generations about making sense of who we are, where we've come from, and how we sustain ourselves into the future. So that is what, for me, a heritage building is. It might not be a building, actually, it might be an outdoor space, but it's something that has got an important story to tell from one generation to the next.
Why do you think it's important that we keep heritage buildings?
Oh. Are you asking me that question? Are you asking everybody that question? Everyone.
Yeah.
Good.
Everyone.
Why do I think it's important? So so on the face of it, I find that quite a difficult question, because when we look at what's going on in the world at the moment, when you look at what's going on in Kyiv right now, people and being is what's important. But that being said, we make sense of our lives in relationship to one another, and we're seeing that as relationships and people are being kind of torn apart one for another. We can see that happening. We can see how distressing that is. But it's being torn apart from our sense of who we are and why we exist. And we're seeing that actually when the world is a difficult place, the things that are important are the things that we're connected to, the places that we're connected with, and that's the soil, the ground, and people of Kyiv are being torn from the places that they call home, and the people that we're connected to. And so there's something about the landscape in which we live and the relationships the connections and the community that we create with one another that is precious. So I wouldn't advocate that we have to keep every building for the sake of the building, but it's about that sense of community and connection that means we're not isolated individuals, but somehow there's this kind of mysterious way that actually we're all held together and connected with one another. So that's why for me there is something important about our heritage and the story that we tell and the story that we live and the stories that we go from one generation to the next.
I don't think I can add anything to what Sarah said. I think Sarah said it beautifully, so there's nothing I can add, exactly that.
Yeah, and I think that
Ben, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I think I wasn't interested in history at all during school, but then school put me off learning pretty much full stop. So I didn't really rekindle my learning until later into my 20s. So what I would say is that as I've got older, I've just been a lot more interested in history. You know, very much to Sarah's point, is understanding who I am, who we are, you know, as a community, as a society. And I think there's a quote that we understand life by looking backwards, but we kind of live it going forwards. And you know, a lot of my kind of questions in life have really been like, why do we do what we do, or why do we believe what we do? And you have to look back in history to understand how our ancestors lived and understand how certain events, whether it's climate or whether it's war or famine or anything else like that, shaped how we think and about, you know, who we believe we are. So a lot of the work which I do in terms of rethinking education is grounded in a historical context about how we evolved and where we come from. So I think that the importance of heritage and understanding the connection to our ancestors is incredibly important. So yeah, I just basically back up exactly what Sarah said.
So we're coming to the end now because I need to send my students for a break. What's the one key message that you would like to pass on to students? Because the next unit, they're going to be looking for work experience opportunities. So if you are a young Sarah, a young Emma, a young Ben, again, what's the one key message you want to send out to our students? Ben, can we start with you?
It's probably similar to what I've talked about and what Sarah's mentioned as well. We're called human beings, not human doings or human havings. Kind of understanding, you're doing, the average career is 80,000 hours. That's a lot of hours doing something which you don't really care about. But understanding who you are, what you value, what really kind of matters to you, the being part. Basically, you can do anything that you want and actually care about it. But basically everything which you do, all your choices which you make, is about understanding who you are. And people can help, but people can't tell you who you are. So it's a type of discovery, really, about just understanding why you make choices, what you care about, what you value, and making choices based on that.
Thank you. Emma?
Yeah, I think probably if I put my employer hat on, then it's to do with the practicalities as well, in addition to what Ben has said, and Sarah will undoubtedly say as well, I think when you're looking from an employer point of view, for yourselves, it's how you apply to us, it's how you contact us, it's the information that you give us, and for you to be sure that it's an employer that you'd like to do work experience with. You know, it's a two-way relationship between yourself and us, and when people offering opportunities, they want to know that you are going to want to do them, because they'll be thinking about what work you can help them with. But equally, you need to be sure that it is what you want to do. I did my work experience with a veterinary surgeon because that was all I wanted to do from the age of 6. I was slightly disturbed by a few things that happened, mostly a dog being put to sleep while I was there. But I found that to be really, really important, because it was what I wanted to do, and I turned up every day and I did it. I didn't end up being a vet, but that's another story for another day around passing A levels. But I'm quite happy now, and maybe that's a part of the story as well. Is with your work experience, it's seeing how different places operate and different work and jobs that are out there. And most of us have done so many different things now. We very rarely come out of school and go into the job that we stay in for life. I know I didn't. So yeah, and you know, as Ben said, it's about who you are and what you want to do, and being yourself, you know.
Yeah, and I think I would say be curious, ask questions. Don't worry that you don't know everything, because I don't. I'm about to turn 50, and I've only just found the space in life that feels like is the space that I'm supposed to be in. When I was younger, I listened to everything that I was told and did what I thought I should do. I probably would still make those same decisions, but the fact that I did that has taught me a lot about life. So when doors close or when things don't go according to plan, just look at what you've learned through those processes and look what you will take into the next door that opens, because you'll have grown and changed as a result of all the experiences that you'll have going forward from here. So those are my advice to you. Be curious, keep learning, and be yourselves.
Do any of you offer virtual work experience? So Sarah?
We have not offered virtual work experience before. And if I'm honest, I would need someone like Ben to help me to understand what that might even look like. There we go. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what it looks like. Would we interested to have a conversation and learn? Yes.
Emma?
No, I don't know what that would look like with a boat, really. I'd need to sort of understand a bit more. I think we're very practical, tangible thing, aren't we, going up and down the river and that sort of stuff. But, you know, there are obviously in this day and age, there's an awful lot of technology that goes into businesses. So maybe that's the angle for virtual work experience.
So could virtual work experience for you to maybe look like office work?
Yeah, could do. I don't know with the boat, no, but I would imagine certainly with lots of other industries, yes, absolutely. We're all doing everything online now, aren't we? You know, I probably, when I was asked to do this, I thought I'd be standing in front of you, and here I am talking to you through a screen. So we've all adapted.
I think sorry, I'm jumping in before Ben gets a chance to speak. Sorry, Ben. But it's a kind of interesting thing about relationships and how we curate our relationships online and how we do that in person and the quality of those relationships. And I think there's something interesting about virtual work experience that can give us one particular view of a working relationship, and it's trying to get a rounded experience through your work experience and to try things out that maybe will work and maybe won't work, but the important thing will be that you've learned from that work experience, however it comes your way. Ben, sorry.
Yeah, I think ours would probably predominantly be virtual, but could probably do some ad hoc in-person work experience. But as I said, we haven't got a formal work experience program. I work from home. My other fellow partners work from home in different parts of the country as well. So everything is done remote with us. So it would be virtual predominantly. And yeah, I'd be happy to help and explore, Sarah, if that's of interest. But we can cross that bridge another time.
Yeah. There we go, making connections.
I think that is it. So I just want to say thank you, Sarah, Emma, and Ben for speaking to my level 2 students, and thank you, Damana and Trinity, for not necessarily volunteering, but doing it anyway, as it is.
Very
So
good
I
questions.
will be in touch with I will be in touch with all 3 of you anyway, because I speak to you all regularly. But thank you for joining us and
Thank
sharing
you.
your views.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Trinity. Thank you,
Thank
Damana.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.